Hi, Peter Ruppe here with Avelo Running, and we're on an adventure to be able to create the world's smartest running shoe. To do a smart running shoe, it's got to show up in the product itself. You've got to be able to see the shoe and go, somebody knows what they're doing here. There's a lot of wisdom that went into this product. Before you ever get to the tech of a sensor and the insights that we can provide you from that sensor, you're going to have to love the shoe first. And so to be able to create a product at that level, I've reached out to some former colleagues of mine and great creators, Aaron Cooper and David Bond. They go by the nicknames Boot for David Bond and Coop for short for Cooper. And it's Boot plus Coop is their identifier, and that's the force of talent that we brought to the opportunity here. And we'll go into some deeper thinking on this, but first I'd love to have each of you guys just introduce yourself. So Coop, why don't you take it first?
Okay, I appreciate Peter. Thank you. And like you said, we've known each other for what is it now? 30, I mean 20, 30 years.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
so yeah, and when we first met, I had long hair. So yeah, it's been a while. And we first met because I was the first design intern at Nike back in '94. Was a Art Center College of Design student studying industrial design, and really fell into footwear because I had a love for athletics and for sport. Nike at the time was the biggest and best, and where else would you go? So I had the extreme pleasure of coming in and pretty quickly being brought underneath your wing in Nike basketball and working with Boot for a long time and learning so much from the two of you. 10 years I spent in Nike basketball from 94 to 2004. And some people would say that's the era that defined it all, not just basketball and not just Nike and not just the industry, but it all. So, and we had a lot of fun in doing what we did. And we did it for the population we were trying to serve, whether it was an athlete representing 1 million people or, a college population representing 1 million people. We really dove into that population to try and understand them at an empathetic level. I tell students today and others that that's really how you design. That's just good design is reach empathy with who you're trying to serve. And I do feel like, I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I feel like we did that with this Avelo running shoe, really listening to that population and creating something that not just that they wanted, but even surprised and delighted them with something they didn't think was possible. That's a little bit about me. And again, just blessed to be a part of this opportunity. And thank you for bringing me on board. And once again, being able to work with David, with Boot.
That's awesome. Yeah, and you've gone on in your career to work in all types of performance products. Started up the mastery curve with basketball, but then you've extended into training products, youth products, running products, sitting in
Yeah.
different geographies, gaining insights. I mean, you've really been able to stretch your capabilities, you know, post the basketball experience, which is
Yeah,
great.
thank you. No, yeah,
Yeah.
you just reminded me, little known fact that designed the very first Vomero. Um, Actually, the only globally distributed shoe from start to finish outside of Beaverton, and that was done while I was living in Amsterdam, starting the footwear design office there. So that insight came from Europe, the idea of premium cushioning, and I don't know what number they are on now, but
Yeah.
I've had a lot of opportunity to design within running. I'm a runner myself, both distance and track, and so I try to not just be empathetic with the population, but I try to also wear the same shoes, so to speak. And well, I guess I guess the pun is intended. Uh,
That's right.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
just I love what we do, and I think we've done something really special here.
So I'll pass it over to David. Love to hear a little bit more about your story, and yeah, take it away.
Yeah, as you know, Peter, I started my sneaker career way back in the day in the late 80s and more on the marketing promotion side, but I found my way to working with you and Aaron back in basketball. I believe I was in basketball, started in Nike basketball in 1989, 90, and grew in that category as well. made my way over into innovation at Nike, and then took my show on the road and got experience at some other companies like at Adidas for about 8 years, and even at Under Armour. And so coming around, learning all those things, all the different categories, all the different brands, and how each brand approaches things just a little bit different. It's been such a both an honor and a pleasure to apply those learnings to this young brand that's doing something so important, right? To take this, I feel like we're the cradle for this new technology, and it's starting a new era. I mean, there aren't smart shoes, real smart shoes on the market yet. Well, until now. And so this has been a blast, like reconnecting with you guys and kind of getting the band back together a little bit.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
It's been awesome. And
You know,
oh, go ahead, Coop.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say, you also know a little bit about starting a brand with, I mean, I will argue with somebody that says that you did not help start Brand Jordan, because that was
Oh, well,
that
yes,
was
yeah, sort of, yeah. That
same with Steph, same with Steph
brand
Curry,
within a
right?
brand, correct?
Yeah.
Coop.
Mhm.
That had a pretty good head start.
So not
So-
only great at marketing product, designing product, but also building brands. So, and I think the people that we're trying to serve with this product and this brand Avelo should know that, the expertise
Yeah.
runs deep in this group.
And I would say that, David, you've helped on the brand development, the brand story, all the iconography for the brand itself for Avelo. So you've been with every aspect of this. And I also like the fact that both of you have done some work in the startup space. David, you've done it a couple times. One time going direct from like real science into execution of a product that was featuring carbon plates well before anybody else was doing it. And you guys have collaborated on some other things in basketball with a lot of success as a startup. So you're very familiar and comfortable operating in this space where you're trying to birth a single product to represent a brand, which is really, really great. I'd love to shift a little bit over and think about the market itself and the consumer. Like, walk me through what you took in to help us get this going. I mean, I know we did focus groups, we did some surveys, and we talked to a lot of runners to get their input on a lot of things, but particularly around footwear. So I'd love to get you guys' thoughts around what you took in before we ever started the designs.
I mean, I think where this project really started for me was when you sent me a catalog of videos from, feels like almost 36, the 6 focus groups with 6 different runners from different parts of the country. And I sat there every night for a week or so, kind of watching these one-on-one interviews. And it was everything from how these runners approach the sport of running and the role it plays in their life, to what brands are using or products they use, and what was missing from running footwear and what they loved about running footwear. And as I got into 30, 33, 36 different interviews, I think it was an hour each, so it was like 36 hours of listening to a very focused segment too. These focus groups were a little bit faster, a little bit younger runners, kind of early adapters of the running culture, and none of them, I was fascinated, were really truly brand loyal. They were performance loyal, right? They were searching out something that felt better, that helped them get their task accomplished better. And I started to write down these commonalities of where I saw this red thread. It seemed to be that this group was looking for that perfect ride, right? As the market was evolving and more cushioning is coming to the market and more propulsion is coming to the market, they're looking for that intersection of propulsion and cushioning. And the market, as you know, is so dynamic, right? Everybody's introducing a new foam or a new geometry of carbon plate, and like kind of combining those things together. And really that was our starting point, was to what is that perfect, that sweet spot for runners, that sweet spot of feeling to enhance running. That's where I started interacting with Coop, and kind of we started talking about what we learned from that really targeted focus group.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good content. Folks were very generous with their time and shared a lot with us to build from, in terms of why they run, what's the great run. Then we started getting into the shoes they wore, and almost every one of them did have like a variety of shoes that they use. So, one of the things we looked at was the fact that they are thinking about the occasion of what they're trying to do and what shoe is going to suit that best. And so we
Yeah.
also understood if we could span that a little bit and give them something that felt comfortable across a little broader spectrum, that might be a good thing to do as well. Coop, what were some of the things you took away as we got the process started?
Yeah, I was gonna say I try to tell people that when the design process always starts with the population you're trying to serve, whether it's a client of one or a population of 1 million. You need to understand who they are at an empathetic level. And with runners, you need to are you designing a high stack shoe, a low stack shoe, a heel offset, high heel offset, low heel offset for the runner that runs marathons or for the weekend runner or who like there's the population is so vast, you really need to understand who it is you're trying to serve. And so listening to all of these interviews, you start pulling out these common threads that you want to start weaving together into something that hopefully doesn't exist. Right. And that's, as a new brand, you're offering something that doesn't exist in the marketplace. We feel like we've done that with this shoe before we even start talking about the tech. And that's, I think, what is equally important. Like you said in the beginning, Peter, is that the tech is nothing if you're not wearing the shoe, right? So you have to get into the shoe, love the shoe, before the tech even starts learning who you are. And that's what's special about this tech, is that it learns as you go. So if somebody's not wearing the shoe for a long period of time, then that tech will never be realized. And so we knew that we had to make a running shoe that was very special and unique to the marketplace. And we think that we have, because we listened to everybody and we pulled out those common threads, and we care deeply and passionately about those millimeters.
Yeah, we'll get into those millimeters in a little bit, but I think you're spot on in terms of making sure that you're listening, you're trying to create understanding, trying to get yourself into a zone that we can create from. And I think we did a nice job of that. And I think we created a lot of tension and early discussion around the parameters of the design, in terms of everything from running barefoot all the way up to the super shoe. Like, we're exploring, like, there's a whole spectrum of things you can create here, and we wanted to try to keep as much in as we possibly could, and I think that was really great for us to challenge ourselves like that at the beginning.
People ask me all the time what made our era in special when we were all working together, and you named it, you called it out, that tension. It's the tension that you have to create. Tension and stress creates value, creates diamonds, creates progression, and you have to create that. You have to figure out how to balance that out with certainly come in with respect, but then also balance it out with I always told people it's like blood, sweat, and tears, hugs, laughter, and love. Like, you need to have that balance, and we always did. Like, we battled over the millimeters, but then we also went to lunch together and laughed and told stories about our families, and then we went back to battling over the millimeters again. And in those millimeters, both, I'm talking design in general, so we're aesthetic and science meet in the middle in that symbiotic relationship. So it's not one or the other. It's the millimeters of how the finish of a particular material looks, versus and also how they stack up in performance. So it's all important. And that tension is what I think is making this shoe as successful as we've been hearing from that population that we're getting it back to. And I don't think everybody understands that's what makes great. One of the things that makes great product is that creative tension.
David, when we think about this as well, we went at it from the standpoint of, there's a lot of energy going into running right now, right? So it's on a growth curve again, like it hasn't seen for a while. It's a very generational based growth curve. That's why we're aiming into that pocket of younger millennials. Gen Z is kind of in the epicenter of who we're trying to attract into the brand. They're a little more tech savvy and a little more open to it, but running's become a key part of what they love to do, and they love to do it socially, and they love to do it from a fitness standpoint. We had to look at the market. And I think you did a really good job of dissecting the market in terms of what's out there and what's its job, from all the different brands. I mean, you really scoped that out. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, we did a positioning map and early on so that we could all align on where exactly we were aiming this product. And I think as I had mentioned before, the market is so dynamic right now, and it's changed from just 10 years ago, where there used to be these very static product types. There were neutral shoes, stability shoes, and racing shoes. And now the runners in the world are demanding a bigger variety of shoes, right? All the way, I think that a typical runner that we were talking to used 3, maybe 4 different shoes for a different workout. There's long, slow days, there's tempo runs, all the way to race shoes, right? In track workouts, right? That was, I think, our biggest challenge, where most of the tension was, like, find one spot on the product map to aim at, and where would it be? Because we're doing one shoe to address the most possible running occasions. And so, yeah, we put every shoe on the market, in particular the ones that were embraced by the runners that we were building product for. And then we identified where we wanted to place or start this brand with the first shoe. And we were really aiming for the most versatile shoe that we could, that would address the most workouts possible for our runners, all the way from a long, slow day, high mileage day, all the way to, and we've tested this, to tempo and even track workouts. Like, we have a lot of fast kids going fast on the track in these shoes and finding the limits. And I think that's what's going to make this shoe is pretty special, is it's going to address the widest variety of workouts possible and disappear in all of those workouts. That was kind of what we were engineering. Like, you don't want to feel it when you're on the track, and you don't want to feel it when you're in, mile 13 of your Sunday run. So, and that was the hard part. I think it's easy to make a little niche shoe, right? That's good for one type of running for one type of runner. But we need to make a shoe where data can be captured in a wide variety of running circumstances.
And so then the next step was to try to create some form factor around it. And I know, Aaron, you did a great job with this in terms of us thinking about shaping, it starts with the last. And do you want to talk a little bit about the way you approach that in terms of just the form factor the shoe's built around? Coop?
This is,
Oh, go ahead.
Coop is famous for the hard points. Coop, and I think that explaining what that means, before we drew anything, before we started to engineer anything, it was getting agreement on the hard points.
Yep.
Yeah, the hard points and the millimeters, and the last comes first. If it doesn't matter how great the shoe is, how great the cushioning is, the foam, the technology, the plate, any of it, if it doesn't fit right. I'm a stickler for fit. To David's point, the best fitting shoe is one that you don't feel, right? You forget that you're wearing it. That's the best feedback I've ever get from any athlete, elite to everyday, is I forgot that I was wearing it. That's what I'm hoping for. It starts with the last, and really refining what that fit and feel that we want. So we had a long conversation about that. And as a startup, you have everything that's out there that exists. And so you can do surveys, you can have interviews, you can have conversations, but and that all is kind of that intellectual data that comes in, the IQ. And then I also say it needs to be balanced out with the EQ, the emotional quotient. And that comes from experience. And again, like, we're all runners to different degrees. I personally started doing track workouts. I was doing longer runs as well, trying to understand what type of fit, trying all different shoes. We need to have like a cut to David's garage, like the shelf of 50 different types of shoes. And probably most of them they're all cut up into little tiny bits and pieces by now. But, just all of that experience makes up the EQ, the emotional quotient. And those two things make up, your gut feeling. And I would say, combined, out of, the 100+ years that the three of us have in creating footwear, that gut instinct is pretty darn strong. So when we get together, and if we can all agree on the page and the millimeters that we want to be on, what's the right height, the stack height, the fit in the forefoot, the toe box, all of that, those hard points that David talked about, if we can come on, get on the same page and say, you know what, collectively our gut feels like this is the right thing, then I'm placing my bet anyway that that's going to be a really well-performing shoe. And sure enough, that's one of the things we consistently heard back in wear testing is, X, Y, or Z, and the fit is amazing. X, Y, and Z, and the toe box feels great. And I forget I have it on, and, it feels like a glove and my toes can still move around. I mean, people calling out that this is something new and unique of an experience to them. And like David said, they've been wearing shoes for many years, many types of shoes, some of the greatest shoes in the market, and they're all great shoes. But we really felt that that fit was something that needed to be, could be refined further. And so it makes me happy that that's kind of the feedback that we're starting to get back from these athletes.
Yeah, it's been really good on both the male and female side. And, it is making sure that you have that discipline to give the ball region enough space, but also make sure that structurally all the way back to the heel, that you're hugging the foot well enough that it's secured and it's going to get locked down. And, there's a mastery to that. And I think you got that right in terms of how we went about doing it. We did 2 generations of last. The first one was a little bit off, and we went back in and looked at where it was off, and made adjustments to get it right in the right zone. And so, yeah, to your point, like really paying attention to those details and making sure that we got it right. And we had already had discussions around the drop that we wanted, the stack heights we wanted, some general parameters, but all that had to then come around into a form factor. And you guys had conversations around that, and then began proposing some shapes. So how did you get to that process? Maybe David, I'll throw this one to you first. How did you get into that process of actually starting to render?
It really came down back to the responsibility of, we're introducing a new technology to the world, and there was 2 ways to look at it, right? One was that the design, the outer design of the shoe, the form of it, given the parameters, stack height and all that we were building into it, you could either make it really stand out and be obvious from 100 yards away that it's something radically new. But I think we all stepped back, and this is where Coops talked about trusting your instinct, and even listening, with all those runners in mind and all those comments. We wanted to go the other direction and be as clean and simple and minimalistic and modern as possible. So we started with some really simple shapes that were more fluid and human, more organic. Wanted something that instantly it looked comfortable and light and fast, without a big logo on it, without big graphics. That's where we started with the shaping of this and the stance of it. And we were referencing other products, obviously, but we were referencing cars. And I think we had a day where we were all looking at Porsches that were beautiful in their stance, right, and their round lines and their how fluid some of them were. But that's where we started, where just black and white, the black upper and a white bottom, and how do we make this thing look like it's running when it's just sitting on a shelf, and what's the simplest thing that we could do? And that was probably the hardest thing to stick to along the way. We've explored other ways of making the shoe more graphic and louder, but we kept it really, really peaceful. And that was one of the original things that we set out to do, is clean, minimal.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Cars have maybe become cliche with footwear, but they still help, right? They help get people on the same page. And so do we design a Porsche or we design a Lamborghini? They're both fast. They're both great on the track. One may be better than the other going to the grocery store, but they can both get you there. But they're completely different people. And
I think we decided not to do a Cybertruck.
Yeah,
we went away from the Cybertruck. That was a full agreement there.
Not that.
It's also, Peter, thanks to you and to Roe, the other founder, trusting us, during a time in the marketplace where, sharper geometric kind of Lamborghini-esque design was happening. I personally don't believe that either consciously or subconsciously works for something you want to put on your body. David mentioned it, the organic nature of our design is purposeful because if we want it to flow naturally off your body, to be an natural extension of who you are. And that's what this tech is trying to tap into. You trying to understand you more than the shoe, like get out of the way, let the shoe get out of the way and bring the runner more forward into the relationship. And I think there's too many shoes out there, not just running, but in general, where the shoe is further out in that relationship. And so we talked about that, more you, less shoe. So we wanted that to also be part of the aesthetic, is to flow off of the, naturally flow off of the human body.
You kind of nailed that from a functional standpoint too. Like we really looked at the ways to use the supercritical foams, these light bouncy foams, and the ways to integrate a plate into the product so that it was there for stability and a little bit of propulsion. But this is a training product, so we thought about the fact that you should be in the run. The shoe shouldn't be running you. The shoe shouldn't decide your tempo. And you should get stronger all the way from your ball joint up every time you run. To train, you got to gain strength, and so we wanted to make sure that those elements were embedded in the product.
That's something else I think the audience needs to appreciate. We're all modest to a fault. Like there were a number of meetings out of the hundreds of hours that we had Zoom calls, and we've yet to see each other in person. I have David
In this project, yeah.
But the fact that you've had a lot of experience in the research lab, and you also have a ton of experience in the manufacturing space, and so to be able to have these collective conversations of decades of experience and tap into these little moments, either, like I said, either pulling from the intellectual quotient or from the emotional quotient to make up this gut instinct that I don't know, I'd put our gut instinct up against probably just about any trio in the world of footwear. And so I don't think what we came up with is, something that we just kind of stumbled upon.
Right.
We really paid attention to the millimeters, and we knew how, like, up to the very end, we were manipulating the millimeters literally up to the very end. And to your point about the last, that those two last, the first last and the second last, it wasn't, inches. We're literally talking like 2 millimeters here, 1 millimeter there, and how you kind of form them and shape them, because we all know how important they are.
And I think as we went through the process there, it's like we took the learning in. Once we got prototypes in, we immediately put them in the high mileage runners and started to learn. And we got tremendous feedback. I mean, the comfort was there, and you get nowhere if you're not comfortable. If it doesn't tend to go away as soon as you start running in it, and we heard that from the runners right away. They could tell it was lightweight, very, very comfortable. So that we scored points right away with them. They were attracted to the simplicity of it, the aesthetic simplicity of it, which was a good thing for us. So we did get some good signals there. We did feel like, there were a couple of things we wanted to do after that first round. And again, they were just adjustments. We needed to have the foam last longer. We had our first shot at it. We had to have it last longer, and we brought in another one of us to add to the team. We brought in Fred Dozian, who's one of the true experts in the world of supercritical foams. And so he came in at that point. We're like, okay, we're stuck. Help us out here. We also had a gentleman who'd worked as a developer in running footwear, who's now a coach, who's actually working directly with the athletes. So he's got 30 years of running experience. So he can interpret things from the runner at a very deep level in Kevin Polk. And at one point, he's a national champion in the 800 meters in the masters level. I mean, so he's an accomplished runner, lives the course. So we rounded ourselves out with a couple other folks as we learned things. And in the first round, we went after lighter weight. Maybe David, talk about how we got lighter with the product after that first shot.
We got the fit and comfort in that first round of samples, and then from there, there's this push and pull that came from the runners themselves and from Rowie, who's also a runner, to make it last longer and make it lighter. And sometimes those are two different things, but we broke it all down and looked at every single element that was in the shoe, from the plate, and started to do what any engineer would do, is ask yourself, is that necessary? And if it wasn't, we took portions of it away. Literally started drilling holes into plates, removing rubber where we saw there was no wear pattern, so we didn't need heavy rubber. And so we were out in my garage drilling holes and stuff and throwing things to the side, and to a point where when we got to rounds 2 and 3, we maintained that fit and that beautiful cushion ride, but we lost weight. And with the chemistry, we've got these things to feel great 100, 200, 300 miles into the usage. That's something, again, that takes a lot of experience. And to your point, Coop, it's more than the three of us. I mean, there's a superstar team outside of the guys on this call right now. And Fred Dozian and Kevin Polk are two of the best at what they did. And critical to making this thing great.
You know, we're just starting to grade the product out, so we're starting to get ready to put other sizes out there. We're continuing to have people put mileage in them. You know, it's been a really great journey, and I think we've got a wonderful product. We wanted to hit certain benchmarks, right? So we knew we wanted to be somewhat in what you would call the neutral zone, which is, you know, that sounds kind of like you know, like kind of a negative term, but actually it's the idea that the product is going to suit a lot of runners. It's going to fit and suit a lot of widths. It's going to fit and suit a lot of running types. You know, that's the idea of it being neutral. It's like not pushed or pulled in any direction. So we wanted to get that. We needed to now comfort. You need to be able to step in this thing and just have it feel great. Like contour where it needs to contour, give you room where you need to move with your body. Feels like we accomplished that. We needed a foam that was going to be durable enough, but also create the pop, you know, and have the plate help with that pop, and ultimately hit on the versatility. So maybe as we start to wind down, I'm thinking like maybe for each you talk about what are you most proud of when you look at this product? What do you feel best about in terms of what we've accomplished?
Well, I mean, I'm a size 12.5, so I've yet to be able to wear it. So I'm looking forward to that. I always just get a lot of pleasure from the response from that population that I try to serve. And in this case, we were trying to serve this, you know, competitive runner that wants to improve, that's out there enjoying running, and, you know, out there training, whether on the road or on the track. And to literally hear feedback on, you know, in some cases just asking, hey, what do you think? And I always say, like, doing focus groups, you know, you want to use, you know, what we were born with to the same, you know, degree. So listen with your two ears and speak with your one mouth. And so I try to just keep quiet and just listen. And the feedback that we got has been so good. You know, like I said, around the fit has been great. The ride has been great. It's almost like you have a hard time getting more information out from them because they forgot that they have the shoe on, right? So, and I remember one time, David, you told me, so another thing that people I think should know is that David was an Ironman, and very
Not
accomplished.
the superhero, the triathlon version.
Yes,
Yeah, make sure we're clear there.
And I even reminded you because I think the true Ironman is someone that balances family, a high, you know, corporate job, which David had at the time, and also your health at a high level. And David was doing the Ironman then, so he was like an Ironman within the Ironman. And he told me one time, you know, if there's something bugging you in mile one and kind of rubbing you on you, whether it's on your apparel, your footwear, I mean, by mile 26 in a marathon, it's digging a hole and making you bleed. The fact that this shoe there's not 1 millimeter on this shoe that people say that they have a specific problem with. They all just talk very, like, we're getting just great reviews across the board. Every once, like most times there's like, if you have a, you know, a 1 through 10 grading system, often you get like a 5 or 6 in somewhere, you know, like it can't be perfect, right? And we're getting 8s, 9s, and 10s. We're getting across the board. In my 30 years, I haven't seen that type of response from a broad population on one shoe. And I think that just kind of goes back to the fact that, you know, David said, I mean, you know, it's a world-class team making a world-class product. And I'm just proud of that. I'm proud to be on the team, and to create what we've done. And I'm excited I'm excited for that tech to be turned on and for me to use it, because I want to continue running, and I want to run injury free, and I want to, you know, run the most efficiently. If that means I can get faster, great. But if it means just maintaining what I got to be able to do what I want to do in life, then that's what I want. And that's what this technology is going to be doing for people. And that's what I'm going to be most proud of, is that legacy that we're going to be leaving behind.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I think I'm with you all the way on that one in terms of being proud of that. And I agree, Coop. Like, as you think about that, like the biggest joy we always get in creating product in this industry is when you see it adopted, you see people loving it, you see them gaining better life experiences because of it. And you know, we've gone through a lot of rigor. Like Kevin's done a great job. We you know, check from initial impressions of these products when people first see them, first put them on, go for a very short run, like around the block, and then start to log miles. And we track their mileage. Like we have them report continuously. And all these runners, we've had a couple dozen of them that have been in the shoes so far. We're going to blow that up here in the next couple of months. And it's just been really, really good feedback, but all positive, almost to the point where like, tell us something, like we're looking for problems, and that's a good place to be in. So I agree with you 100% there. David, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud that I've been in the industry a long time and been on a lot of teams. I'm most proud of how the group worked together. And to Aaron's point, I don't think we've been in the same room together in the last year and a half.
Ever.
Even though we've seen each other one-on-one, but being able to take in all of the input from the tech side to what the wear testers were telling us, to what the founders wanted, and all the challenges that come into play, and that this thing at the end of all of this process with all of these people remote, that it looks beautiful. It really does. We're getting that photography right now. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful, simple shoe, and it feels beautiful. Those two things I feel like I did my job. I did my job, and now it's ready to hold that new technology. I don't know if that's pride or just excitement. Really, that I didn't screw it up. I'm proud that along the way we all pushed on the things that we thought were important. And it is very similar to the vision that I think we all had in our head at the beginning. And it's now we're at the end of the creation phase. It's everything that you could have hoped it would be. It's a really super high performance running shoe that isn't ugly and has a groundbreaking technology inside. And that's what I'm proud of. Like getting through all that. That's hard to do in any circumstance, the result. So I'm proud of the result of all of it.
Part of the world-class team that makes world-class product is the manufacturing. And we were blessed with a relationship that David and I have built overseas, and they're among the best in the world. They're a small boutique factory, but they have relationships with the best mold shop, tooling, the foam vendors. Even the mesh that we're using is one of the best in the world, because of the relationships that we've built over the 30 years, and they've just been such a pleasure to work with. If I could get on a plane tomorrow and see this through production, I would in a heartbeat. So I love being over there, and they're amazing people, and the craftsmanship that is being put into this product is best in the world.
Yeah, I think it's hard when you come into something like this and you try to start a brand to have a quality manufacturer want to partner with you. And you guys open that door, and they've been amazing. Like, I totally agree. They've been committed to this with us all the way along. They've been patient in the process to make sure that we've sweated every detail and get everything right. And that makes a huge difference. And that's part of the reason why we are where we are. And we have a real excitement to bring this footwear, but the whole tech stack that we're also doing a lot of testing on now, to the market. So yeah, I want to thank you guys a lot for sharing your insights and walking through the journey for anybody who's watching and listening. So thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for letting us be a part of this. That's the real thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been awesome. Appreciate you two so much. So thanks.
And one day we'll get together in person.
We should. We will. Yeah, we'll toast this thing real soon. That's right. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.